So today we'll try to discuss about the basics of alternating current. Alternating current means it is AC. So AC signal is called as alternating current. So alternating current is a current that varies as a function of time. The magnitude and direction of current in alternating current varies with time. It will change its direction. Also, it will change its magnitude. So basically, it will have the sinusoidal form, that is the conventional form of the alternating current. The magnitude and direction of current changes as a periodic function of time. Both the magnitude and direction of current change as a periodic function of time. So periodically, again and again, the direction and magnitude will change. So repeated changes are going to take place in case of alternating current. Therefore, the variation of current has repeating, specific, well-defined cycle during regular intervals of time. So therefore, the variation of current has a repeating, specific and well-defined cycle, okay, during regular interval of time. So again and again, the current is going to change, okay. So that is observed in alternating current. Then the alternating current has two half cycles, okay. So that can be represented as two half cycles, namely positive and negative half cycle, which may be represented in terms of direction of current, okay. So this positive and negative half cycle are representing the direction of current. Positive half cycle means it is in a particular direction, in one direction. Negative half cycle represents the opposite direction, okay. So that is how you can understand positive and negative half cycle. I will show you the sinusoidal AC in a representation diagram, okay. So finally, what we conclude from this slide is that alternating current is the rate of flow of charges where direction of current changes periodically, okay. So where direction of current changes periodically. So how to define alternating current? Alternating current is a rate of flow of charges where direction of current changes periodically. So periodically, the direction of current changes. How to represent it mathematically? How to represent alternating current mathematically? So that you will see. For analysis of AC circuit, we consider alternating current, which varies sinusoidal with time. Sinusoidally, it varies with time. So basically, it is represented as the current is represented as I equal to I naught into sine omega t. V is equal to V naught into sine omega t. So sinusoidally, the voltage and current varies with time. This is the mathematical equation for the alternating current and alternating voltage. Okay, remember this particular equation where I is the current, which is given by I is equal to I naught into sine omega t. V is equal to V naught into sine omega t. That is the simple mathematical equation representing the alternating current. Where here I naught and V naught are the peak values of alternating current. I naught and V naught are the peak current and peak voltage, okay, respectively. And here omega is representing the angular frequency of AC. We know that AC changes its direction in a periodic way. So again and again it will change its direction. So by how many cycles are observed in 1 second, that is representing the frequency of AC, okay. So omega is the angular frequency, and omega, which is equal to 2 pi f, okay. Omega angular frequency can be represented as 2 pi into f, where f is the number of alternating cycles of AC per 1 second, okay. So number of times it will change its direction Once if it changes direction, that is called as one cycle. Okay, one cycle it will change its direction once. Okay, if it is in the positive side on one particular side, in that cycle it will change its direction to the negative side. Okay, so in 1 second, how many number of times it changes its direction is called as frequency of AC. Okay, in India, the domestic AC has a frequency 50 hertz. So it will change its direction 50 times in 1 second. Okay, 1 second ಅಲ್ಲಿ 50 ಸಲ ಅದು ಡೈರೆಕ್ಷನ್ ಚೇಂಜ್ ಮಾಡ್ತದೆ. That is in India. It varies from country to country. Okay, so these two are the equations representing the alternating current and alternating voltage. So just to remember this, and here omega t represents the phase of AC. We'll come to that later. So next, how to represent this AC in graphically, okay, in a picture. So this is how we can represent the AC. Okay, so this is a graph of current versus time. Okay, it is a graph of current versus time, or flow of charges versus time. It should be V naught and I naught. Okay, so just you observe the alternating current varies sinusoidally with time. Okay, with the time it will increase first, then it reaches maximum, then it decreases, it changes direction, negative side it will go, then it will reach the maximum in negative direction, then again it increases and changes direction in the positive side. So this one wave, it is called as one cycle. From 0 to capital T, it is called as one cycle. To complete one cycle, it needs total time capital T, because horizontal axis is time axis. It needs total time T to complete one cycle. To complete half cycle, it needs T by 2 time. To complete 1/4 of the cycle, it will take T by 4. That is the time needed to complete 1/4 of the cycle. Okay, this is how we can represent the sinusoidal AC. Okay, in figure, capital T represents the time period of AC during which it completes one cycle containing one positive half cycle and one negative half cycle. So in one cycle, in one complete cycle, that is from 0 to T, it will have one positive half cycle, another negative half cycle. Okay, it will change its direction once in one cycle. Okay, so one cycle antandre ಏನು, it is one complete wave, sine wave. Okay, because AC is represented mathematically by means of the sinusoidal function, that is I naught into sine omega t. So the graph of current versus time gives you a simple sine wave. But here we represent the time period of AC by taking the time to complete one cycle. Okay, so AC attains the peak values twice in a cycle, but in the opposite directions. So if you consider one cycle of AC, it will take the maximum value I naught once in the positive side and the maximum value minus I naught on the negative side. So it will attain the maximum values twice. Negative direction irbodu, positive direction irbodu, they will take the maximum values twice in a cycle. In one cycle, it will attain the maximum value twice. That is how you can understand the concept of AC signal. And this AC signal can be visualized in CRO, that is cathode ray oscilloscope. If you feed the AC signal to the CRO, it will show the same sinusoidal wave. Okay, so that is how we can represent the AC on CRO. Mathematically, the sinusoidal function is used to represent the AC. Then what is the average value of alternating current? What is the average value of AC in one half cycle? So that is given by I average is equal to 2 I naught by pi. So that is the average value of AC. You know that AC varies with time. Just to observe, AC alternating current increases, then it decreases, then again it increases. So the magnitude of current is going to change with time. Constant irregular, it is not a constant current. The magnitude changes. Because of that, it is possible to find out the average value of AC in 1/2 cycle. So that is given by 2 I naught by pi. Okay, where 2 by pi is having the value 0.637 I naught. So average value of AC is equal to 0.637 times of the maximum current. Okay, so maximum current is observed twice in a one cycle. Okay, similarly, the sinusoidal alternating voltage is having the average value V average is equal to 0.637 of V naught. That is equal to 2 V naught by pi. So that is the average value of AC. So where V naught and I naught are the peak values, peak current and peak voltage respectively. The average value of alternating current and voltage over a complete cycle is 0 because it has one positive half cycle and one negative half cycle. If we calculate the value of average value of AC over one complete cycle, that is going to be 0. That's why we have to take the average value in a 1/2 cycle, because 1/2 cycle is positive, another half cycle is negative. If you take the average value of AC over complete cycle, it will be 0. So that you just remember that. These are the basic things. Then root mean square value or RMS value of AC. So how to find out the root mean square value of AC? The effective value of alternating current is called root mean square value. That is square root of the mean of the squares of the instantaneous values of alternating current over one complete cycle. You have to take the square of the instantaneous current. What is the instantaneous current? That is I is equal to I naught into sine omega t. You have to take I square, then take the mean value of that I square over complete cycle, that is divided by the time period t. Then you take the square root of that value. So that is how you can calculate the RMS value of AC. So it is actually effective value of AC. So RMS value is called as effective value of AC. That's why for solving the problems for analyzing the circuits, we will take care of only RMS value of AC, because that is the effective value. So what will be the expression for that RMS value of AC? That is given by IRMS equal to I naught by root 2, where 1 by root 2 is having the value 0.707 of I naught. Okay, so it is almost 70% of the peak value. The effective value of AC is nearly equal to 70% of the peak value. Similarly, the alternating voltage, what is the RMS voltage? That is given by VRMS equal to V naught by root 2. Okay, that will also be 70% of the peak voltage. How to define this RMS value? The effective value or RMS value of AC is equivalent to that steady current, that is DC current, which when passed through a resistance for a certain time produces the same amount of heat as that of the alternating current when passed through the same resistance for the same time. The practical measurements are done in terms of the RMS values only. If you use any voltmeter, that will give you the RMS value of voltage only. It will not give you the peak value. The meters in the laboratory will show the RMS values of AC. So how to define this RMS value of AC? Just I have read that. So if you pass the DC current in a resistance for a certain time, it will produce some amount of heat. Okay. If you pass the AC in the same resistance for same amount of time, then it produces the same amount of heat, then RMS value of AC is equal to that DC voltage. Okay. So basically, this RMS value is the effective value. Okay. So what is the effective value of AC is given by the RMS value. That's why for all the practical measurements and for all the circuit analysis, we use the RMS value of AC only. Okay, just to remember this concept. Next, what do you mean by phase of alternating current? Okay, phase of the alternating current ಅಂದ್ರೆ ಏನು ಅಂತ ನೋಡೋಣ. The alternating current and its variation with time is represented by I is equal to I naught into sine omega t plus alpha. Sometimes you will get the equation as I naught sine omega t plus alpha. A extra angle alpha is added to the equation of AC. Okay, where in this equation I naught is the peak current, omega t is called as phase, and alpha is called as phase angle. So here total phase of the AC is omega t plus alpha. Okay, so basically the angle which is appearing in the sinusoidal function, that is called as phase of AC. Okay, basically this phase of AC represents what is the value of AC current or AC voltage at a t equal to 0. Okay, so phase of AC is required to find the value of alternating current at t is equal to 0. So just you try to understand this equation where alpha is called as phase angle. The shape of the sinusoidal wave representing AC depends on the value of alpha. Just I have told you the shape of the sinusoidal wave, whether that sine wave starts from the 0 or it starts from a certain I naught, etc., that can be understood by taking the value of alpha properly. Okay. If alpha equal to 0, what will happen? If alpha equal to 0, then the current I takes the value 0 when t equal to 0. If alpha is 0, then I will be 0 if t equal to 0. That's why at t equal to 0, the value of current will be at 0 position. Okay, so whatever the sine wave I have shown in the previous slide, that is exactly having the value of alpha 0. Okay, if alpha is pi by 2, what will happen? If alpha is pi by 2, that is phase angle is pi by 2, then I will be equal to I naught when t equal to 0. If alpha is pi by 2, you put t equal to 0, you will get sine of pi by 2, that is sine of 90 degree. Sine of 90 degree is 1. So then I will become equal to I naught. Therefore, with respect to the time axis, the shape of the wave depends on alpha. So at t equal to 0, I will be at I naught. So the sine wave starts from the I naught value. Allinda start up to okay. That is how we can understand the shape of the AC wave depends on alpha. And one more thing you have to remember, the value of alpha does not affect the average value and RMS value of AC. It will not affect the average value and RMS value of AC. That will not be affected by this phase angle. Only it affects the shape of the curve. Basically, it gives you the value of current at t is equal to 0. That is decided by the value of alpha. Okay. So that is how you can understand. If you want to compare two alternating current at a certain time, okay, whether both alternating current waves are exactly matching or there is a mismatch, that can be understood by value of alpha. If two AC signals are having the same value alpha, then definitely they will perfectly match with one another. Wave ಒಂದರ ಮೇಲೆ ಒಂದು ಕುತ್ಕೊಂಡಂಗೆ ಬರ್ತದೆ. If alpha is different for two AC signals, then there will be mismatch. If you combine them, they will not get matching with one another. Okay, because at t equal to 0, they will have different value of I. There is no perfect coincidence. Okay, so when two AC signals are said to be in phase, when alpha is same for them, then AC signals are said to be same phase. They are in same phase. So same phase means at t equal to 0, they will have same value of current I. That is how we can understand the phase of alternating current. Okay, so this is how phase of alternating current is understood. Then analysis of AC circuit. So here in this chapter, the analysis of AC circuits are discussed using J operator method. We'll make use of J operator method, where J is called as complex number. So just I will introduce the J operator method today. The analysis of AC circuit becomes simple if complex number representation is used. Instead of using the sine wave representation, we'll make use of complex number representation for the AC. Okay, and which is called as J operator method, where J is a complex operator. Okay. Let us take an example of a complex number, or we'll try to understand what is complex number. A complex number is a combination of a real and imaginary quantity. So in mathematics, you might have studied the complex number is a real part and it is having imaginary part, and complex number is basically represented as z is equal to x plus jy. You might have taken iy, but here I will take jy, where j is the complex number. Okay. The quantity which is combined with j is called as imaginary part. So here x is imaginary part. Okay, x is imaginary part and y is, sorry, x is real part and y is imaginary part. Sorry, I'll repeat once again. X is the real part, y is the imaginary part. What is the value of j? J is equal to square root of -1. Okay, so j is having the value square root of -1, which is actually representing a complex number. Okay, complex number representation is done using the notation j. J is equal to square root of -1. Okay, so how to represent this complex number in a complex plane? Okay. That is called as a phasor diagram. We call it as phasor diagram. The complex number can be represented in a complex number plane. So that complex number plane has two axes. It is created by extending one-dimensional real number line in two-dimensional complex line, such that the real number lies on the horizontal axis and imaginary number on the vertical axis as a multiples of j. So instead of x and y coordinate, we'll take the real coordinate and imaginary coordinate. Okay, so real coordinate means you will have an axis. Okay, so just I will show that. So you will have one axis like this. This is imaginary axis. Then this is real axis. Okay, so vertical line is imaginary axis, horizontal line is real axis. So this is called as complex plane. The value of x and y of the complex number is represented on real axis and imaginary axis. Okay, just I will show you. Okay, in the next section I'll try to show you. The complex number is defined by a point whose projection on horizontal and vertical axis gives the real and imaginary part of the complex number. Remember, horizontal axis is a real axis, vertical axis is a imaginary axis. Just you will take the example. Suppose I have a complex number z, which is represented by x plus jy. Then horizontal axis is a real axis, vertical axis is an imaginary axis. Then that complex number is represented by this point, where its projection on real axis gives you real part of the complex number, that is x. Projection of that point on the imaginary axis gives you the imaginary part of the complex number. Y is the imaginary part. So this is having the j multiples of j. It will have the values multiples of j, and it will take certain angle theta. What is the magnitude of complex number? You know that magnitude of complex number is actually mod of z, that is given by square root of x square plus y square. So definitely this is representing the magnitude of that complex number. This is given by x square plus y square according to the Pythagoras theorem. This is in 90 degree. So according to Pythagoras theorem, definitely the length of this particular line OP, which represents the magnitude of complex number z, and therefore mod of z is equal to square root of x square plus y square. So what is the angle made by OP with the real axis? With respect to real axis, it will make an angle theta, and that angle theta is given by theta is equal to tan inverse of y by x. According to trigonometry, you know that tan theta is y by x in this particular triangle, tan theta is opposite by adjacent. So therefore, theta will be tan inverse of opposite by adjacent. Opposite is y, adjacent is x. So angle made by that complex number z with respect to real axis is given by theta is equal to tan inverse of y by x. Okay. Finally, I will try to represent the complex number in the complex plane. Consider a simple case of two complex numbers such that one complex number has only real part. Z1 is having only real part, imaginary part is 0, and another complex number with only imaginary part, where real part of Z2 is 0. Z2 is having only imaginary part. Z1 is having only real part. So how to represent this Z1 and Z2 in a complex number plane? So this is how you can represent. Z1 is having only real part. It is real part of the Z1 is X. Z2 is having only imaginary part, where it is having the imaginary part Y. So definitely Z1 will be shown on the horizontal axis. Z2 is shown on the vertical axis. Obviously, the complex number with real part will have vector along real axis because Z1 is having only real part, so no complex part or no imaginary part. Definitely it will be represented on the real axis. And another wall will have vector representation along imaginary axis. So Z2 will be represented on imaginary axis. There is a phase difference of pi by 2 between these numbers. So if you find out what is the angle between these two, Z1 and Z2, so that is definitely 90 degree. Angle between this real axis and imaginary axis is 90 degree. Therefore, the phase difference between Z1 and Z2 is equal to 90 degree, or it is equal to pi by 2. Okay. So here how we have defined Z1. Z1 is actually X. Z2 is equal to JY because Z1 is having only real part. Z2 is having only imaginary part. Then phase angle between Z1 and Z2 is pi by 2. Okay. So that means if two vectors, two complex numbers having only real part and another complex number having only imaginary part, definitely they are having the phase difference of 90 degree between them, or phase difference of pi by 2 between them. Another example I will take, if Z3 is having the negative imaginary part minus JY, which lies along negative imaginary axis. Remember, this is positive Y axis, that is positive imaginary axis. This is negative imaginary axis. If you represent that Z3, which is having minus ZY, then definitely it will lie on negative imaginary axis. And again, the phase difference between them is minus pi by 2. With respect to real axis, the angle is minus 90 degree. This one is minus 90. So therefore, the complex number which is having negative imaginary part will have the phase difference of minus 90 degree with respect to the positive real number. Okay. So Z1 is having only real part. It is having X as a real part. So imaginary part of Z3 is observed on the negative imaginary axis. That's why the angle between them is minus pi by 2. Okay. So this is how the complex number and real number are observed to have 90 degree phase difference between them. This is how you can represent the complex number in the phasor diagram. Okay. So this you will consider in the next class.